Welcome everyone to episode 14 of our web series Decoding NEP 2020, brought to you by EduDave's School of Inspired Teaching and Learning and powered by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University. I, Kuhika Dhingra, on behalf of EduDaves, present to you our esteemed panelists who have gathered for an enriching deliberation on technology in assessment. Honored to welcome Ms. Manisha Khanna, Vice Principal, Mount Olympus School, Gurgaon. A dynamic and self-motivated leader, Mrs. Khanna has more than 2 decades of academic experience and is renowned for her exceptional academic strategies. As the Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, she is always at par with the latest technology and believes in inculcating these tools in teaching methodologies as well. She is passionate for carving out new paths, empowering teachers with technical skills, and creating vibrant learning spaces for the students. We look forward to hearing your insights today, ma'am. Introducing an
Thank you so much for a wonderful and lovely welcome. Thank you, Kuhika.
Introducing an eminent edu leader, Miss Madhu Uppal, Headmistress, DPS Monarch International School, Doha, Qatar, as a panelist today. She holds over 2 decades of experience as an academic administrator and progressive educator in the education sector. As a certified Microsoft Innovative Educator expert and a certified neuro-linguistics programmer, Ms. Uppal is skilled in structuring strategic methodologies to transform teaching experience and enhance student engagement. Thank you so much for honoring the panel today, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me.
Proudly welcoming Dr. Swaminathan, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University, Amritapuri campus. An expert in his field, he has a teaching experience of more than a decade in Amrita University. His passion for teaching and mentoring students towards computational thinking truly sets him apart. A leader of Code at Amrita Club, Dr. Swaminathan is dedicated to training and equipping students to take part in national and international competitive programming contests. We are glad to have you on our panel today, sir. Now, I proudly welcome and introduce our moderator for the day, Ms. Devyani Kapoor. A former principal, author, and passionate edu leader, Ms. Kapoor carries over 3 decades of experience in the education sector. A pragmatic thought leader, she is the founder and CEO of EduDave's School of Inspired Teaching and Learning. Accredited Iconic Edupreneur of the Year Award in World Education Awards 2021, she is renowned for introducing numerous innovative pedagogical techniques and creating new benchmarks in the field of education. And once again, I welcome all of you who have just joined the session. And now I hand over the baton to our moderator, Ms. Devyani Kapoor.
Thank you so much, Kuhika, for this always a very, very illustrious introduction. We all feel very proud and reflect upon what all we have achieved. Well, I warmly welcome each one of our esteemed panelists today. Some of them happen to be my colleagues, my friends, and of course, welcome Dr. Swaminathan from AVV. Amidst these festivities, the entire education community, I think, has been talking about and is little jolted and about the most stressed aspect of teaching learning, which is the examinations. Yes, which is, I believe, the only method of assessing learning. There has been a lot of confusion around. Let's take, for example, the CISC. At one point of time, said semester 1 exams will be online. Preparations and instructions, everything was in place. A new circular comes. Exams will be offline. Another circular comes. Exams will be rescheduled. And another circular. Final date sheet announced. as of 28th October, instructions released for offline examinations. While CBSE has released a date sheet for 2021 for classes 10 and 12, an issue arises also from a state for including the language as minor subject. CBSE reasoned it out that it was purely an administrative convenience. Look at the scenario. Where is our focus? Why are we creating so much of confusion? Is it because of our lack of preparedness? I just wonder, where is this leading us? Assessments, I understand, are an important aspect of learning, but it is not the only aspect. Students today are under tremendous stress as they are not sure what will change shortly. They are all living in a state of confusion and uncertainty. Again, I question, why are we not prepared almost 2 years in the pandemic? Why do we not have systems in place that will ease that anxiety and make learning more joyful? All stakeholders of education, students, teachers, school managements, parent community, everyone is deliberating on the what and how of examination. This, I feel, is a challenge that can be seen as an opportunity to revisit our old pen and paper centric assessment system. The online classrooms that helped the education system to evolve, and each student was able to perform. Each teacher went beyond their limits and was applauded by the Prime Minister and placed in the category of the COVID warriors as well. As everyone learns a little differently, teachers have long strived to meet the needs of all their pupils, painstakingly setting and photocopying different assessments for different students depending on their abilities. Technology for classrooms makes this process a whole lot easier. We have seen effectiveness of technology in teaching and learning process. Now, with so much disruption to their education, accurate information about a student's level of understanding is especially very, very crucial to ensuring all pupils achieve their full potential. Understanding that students know and what they don't know is central to effective teaching learning process. If pupils attempt tasks that are too difficult, they are likely to get frustrated and fail. Likewise, if they are assigned very difficult tasks, they are unlikely to progress. Without much ado, we begin our today's session on technology in assessment. As always, today's session will have 3 rounds. The ice-breaking round, where the panelists reflect on one single aspect. The specific question round, where each panelist issues and addresses a certain issue. The question answer round, which is the audience round. We will move in the sequence of Ms. Manisha Khanna, Dr. Swaminathan, and Ms. Madhu Uppal. And the time duration for this round is 2 minutes. Technology can be used for instant assessment in many different ways, such as tracking student progress over time. Perhaps even more compelling, however, EdTech can be used to aid formative assessment, helping to boost engagement, identifying knowledge gaps, and support further deeper learning. My question to you all is, how, before even we deliberate upon how of a seamless transition to technology-based assessment, we also want to look at the viability of this system across the country. Is technology available to all? Secondly, how can schools and higher educational institutions transition to this future assessment system using technology to measure the learning outcome? Over to you, Manisha, Miss Khanna.
Yes, Devyani ma'am, when you were speaking, even I was pondering the thoughts what you were sharing with all of us, because we all are right now in a position where we are going with the flow, like one notice and then we work on that, and then another notice and then we work in that direction. So this pandemic, one, has taught us be ready always for any and every situation. Second, when we talk about assessment, I would like to bring a thought of everyone to this side, that why we never discussed about how to teach, why teaching is not important rather than assessment. Because any performance in the school is only judged by the effective learning outcomes, and those learning outcomes will happen when we will be able to reach to each and every child. During this pandemic, or maybe after that, when gradually we had offline and online and then hybrid system, most of the time the talk was about how the assessment will be done, rather than, I feel, the talk would have been how the content will be delivered to each and every child, that it will reach to everyone. So, talking about that, I mean, yes, of course, one night, all of a sudden, we all were in a situation there where we have to reach to every child, the kind of activities what we used to do in the school. Overnight, you have to plan each and every activity in a manner that it should be done on a technology based in ICT, through ICT tools, and in a very effective manner. So yes, as every situation has is pros and cons. Same with the technology. Yes, teachers explored a lot. They found many activities, many activities. I would like to share some of my school experience and my teachers' experience, where actually children enjoyed a lot. Rather than being physically in the class, those activities were done fruitfully. But at the same time, the drawback, the problem what we faced, children stopped writing. They were not in a habit of writing. Their writing habits have gone completely. Now, even for MCQ, they want a gadget in their hand. They want to press the button rather than just writing that one single word, even. So, yes, technology has taught us a lot. Assessments are always part of the teaching learning outcome, but always we should find out something which is having a balance of everything. One, that yes, we are assessing the technology, we are assessing the child through technology, but at the same time we are judging their 360 degree complete knowledge. All the assessments, knowledge, recalling, application, are we able to incorporate all those through technology? No. Then we have to think something else which will be, completely as per the need of the situation.
Very well said. I think, and I was really lured by your point, which I also made, that why are we so much focusing on assessment? And why is examination the only way of assessing the learning outcome? Why can't we focus on the teaching, and during that teaching process, the assessment could just be, slightly rolled into the whole process. Thank you so much, Ms. Khanna. Wonderful hearing your thoughts. Moving on to Dr. Swaminathan. Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, I think I agree with many points which Manisha Khanna ma'am had actually raised. So I mean they are pretty relevant. Why are we focusing on only evaluation? Why are we not focusing on teaching? But I think I have one point of view is that no, see we at one end we want to make evaluation very objective, right? So it doesn't go remain in the subjective term, because if the teacher, if you don't do evaluation, how will you judge somebody who is working hard and who is not working hard? I mean, we need to make some. So there has been a lot of effort to actually make the evaluation and assessment, very objective. Okay, and if you want to make it objective, then obviously, we need to get them in one place, or we need to actually have a way to monitor them. So in a typical classroom, or when you conduct the exam, we could have a invigilator who could actually see the students what they are doing, and it had some kind of a sanctity in place, right? Now, when we conducted exam in schools or colleges, it had some sanctity in place, because the people were there to directly, monitor. And but that thing has gone with the technology. Now with technology, we have to rely on the basically underlying network, or how it's properly functioning and all that. Because very often we see that the students, they say, I mean, it could be for the many cases, it could be very genuine that their network is on and off, and there is some issue with their end, or it could be issue with your end. We also see. So essentially, there is no way we can guarantee. At this level of technology, there is no way we can guarantee that we can oversee or monitor everyone. Okay, if you are doing the evaluation, so it's actually a challenge. I think the evaluation process, it's undergoing a lot of evolution. I think we have not reached a point now where we can say, you know, I mean, this is the solution or de facto solution. No, you can take it forward. I mean, still, no. See, the thing is, with respect to the evaluation, there is also a student who also wants to defeat the evaluation. At least this much we can see in the colleges, right? I mean, no, I don't know how much it's prevalent in the school, but at least they try to. Uh, there are so many ways, because the young people understand technology a lot better than us, right? They're quick to
Mm.
learn new ways actually to actually sabotage our way of evaluation and all. So I think we are kind of evolving on that. Okay, so I have few things which we want to talk about, like at the next our future question, like how we do
Yeah,
this online proctoring and all that. But probably I'll reserve
absolutely.
it to that. But I think I would say that this evaluation process is actually is evolving. I mean, we have not yet reached a point, and people are thinking in many different ways. And hopefully, I think people are also at one end. They are also thinking, when will we get back to the offline? So they are also always hoping for that to happen, right? So they think that this is only a temporary measure. Somehow we'll scrape through, but eventually people will get to the schools,
Mm.
and then we'll be able to do the evaluation as earlier. That's what people are hoping. So but I think it's going in both directions, like both are evolving, and
Mm.
hopefully we'll have some clarity on
Thank you,
over a
Dr.
period of time.
Swaminathan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Swaminathan. And I really liked when you said that the whole evaluation process is actually undergoing evolution. So we are all doing a lot of R&D, and I think it is painstaking, but eventually it will lead to a process, a point where I'm sure we could reach out to our objective of assessing. My question to Ms. Uppal, to you is, Dr. Saab mentioned about assessment and evaluation. And we are so at this point of time, so, stressed about, I think we might call it evaluation, because, the semester one is going to be part of evaluation. Do you think with technology and assessment, the assessment would take a backseat, like the formative assessment, the constant, which Manisha Khanna also mentioned, that why can't there could be, when you're teaching, that part should be given more importance. Now my question is this a better option when we are talking about an online assessment, or what was it applicable or viable in an offline scenario? Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of them. The point of view they put forward, I think I too, into the same, line would talk about. But first thing I would like to highlight here that whenever the school transition to technology, so there are multiple factors, they are interdependent. It's not only, the head of the school wants or the teacher want, or actually it's the need of the hour. So the factors like teacher skill, your school infrastructure, budget allocation, your teachers, the quality, technical support, and how much access to technology is there, what are the different practices which are there, the entire digital ecosystem which I feel needs to be created, that leads to a further and I would say it's a joint effort of all the stakeholders. It will depend on investment in research, like how authentic and how reliable the assessment structure you have in place, so that you can have evidence based practices, so that whatever assessment you are trying to implement, whether they are able to fulfill the purpose. Like suppose I would like to give example here in my school itself. We conduct concept recap. This is one assessment tool that we are very much in practice and we advocate, because this tool, like after every concept we take a concept recap, which is digitally. Children are using iPads in our school, so they are given this assessment. So after every assessment, on the basis of all these concept recaps, we create a monthly report, and that monthly report is learning outcome based. So how much the child is able to attain the learning outcome or the objective which were set by the teacher, whether they are able to achieve those learning
Teach.
outcomes end of the year, yeah, whether they are able to fulfill, or if in case we find the child is not able to, there are certain level like accomplished skill, developing skills. Certain children are still establishing that skill which is required maybe in languages or in mathematics. But if we find that there are certain gaps, then the teacher is going to revisit the topic. So the assessment tool which is used here is a kind of diagnostic in nature, which caters to the need of the learners, right? And but you need to have an infrastructure in place, because the students are having that particular device. We have that support, technology support in school. So the entire digital ecosystem is in place. So the technology which is used for assessment, I would say certain extent we are able to achieve that target which we are expecting. So in such scenario, I think it's a combined effort, or I would say it's a the joint effort of all the stakeholders. Then only we can at least we can see that okay, whatever assessment strategy we are just planning to have, or integration with technology, then only we can achieve the purpose. So in
Thank
that
you
sense,
so much. Yeah. So thank you so much, Ms. Madhupal, because you spoke about creating, and I would like my audience to hear that, creating a digital ecosystem. And all the stakeholders need to contribute towards it if we need to have a seamless transition to technology based assessment. And it should not be just, because I feel when it comes to students, they need to understand the assessment purpose and not take it that it is easy because they are sitting at home. Parents also need to contribute in terms of ensuring that the assessment process should be taken with seriousness, and of course, all stakeholders. So I think that this first round was a wonderful round where we had insights like focus on the teaching and not just too much of focus on examination that will automatically get sorted. Then by Swaminathanji, who said that evaluation revolution is going on in evaluation, and with Ms. Uppal, who said that it is important digital ecosystem has to have all stakeholders contributing to it. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next round. And our next round, I start with Ms. Manisha Khanna. Ma'am, you see, technology can be used for instant assessment, which I'm sure who better than you all know it, in many different ways, such as tracking students' progress over time. Perhaps even more compelling, however, EdTech can also be used to aid formative assessment, helping them students to boost engagement, student engagement, identify knowledge gaps, and support further deeper learning. Along with the variety of online resources, something very interesting that has come up is the various apps that are available to help teachers assess pupils depending on their, interests, abilities, behavior. Could you throw some light on this and how effectively they can be integrated?
Uh, Thanks for this wonderful question, Mrs. Kapoor. I really like the word which Madhupal ma'am said, that all the stakeholders really genuinely have to work together. And maybe in Qatar, country like Qatar, they were able to create that digital ecosystem. But if I feel or I talk about, still we are in NCR, so we are at better place where we have all the infrastructure. But the places of remote areas in the country where there was not much support, but thanks to all the applications, as Mrs. Kapoor you said, and we explored a lot of, some of them were really very good. One, all those were applications were free of cost. It was just that you have to explore, you have to understand. There was not much hand holding because it's free of cost. So teachers have to explore, and if one teacher has learned something, so again, it has to be a collaborative work, a team work that will be shared among the other members. So few, if I talk about which one which was very, very good, which students gave me the feedback that they enjoyed, especially the primary and the middle students, that was bookcreator.com. And bookcreator.com is like many activities. If suppose you have to talk them about renewable and non-renewable sources of energy, so you have taught through PPT, through presentations, through videos. Teachers have many options to teach, but when you have to assess them, so for that, bookcreator.com is something that students were creating their own digital book, like a blog, I can say, but not a blog. Again, they were able to insert videos, pictures, animations, or let's talk about or much level, much primary level, where if suppose you have to give a homework to a student about me, those 5 sentences about me, if you have to, about my hobbies, about my taste, about my passion, and if child is doing digitally through that application bookcreator.com, they were so happy that they created a book at younger age. One, they were able to insert pictures and everything, and again, that was something what I feel those who have done wonderfully, it was a part of assessment. It was a homework, but they enjoyed a lot because the purpose was they should be engaged very constructively. And the one goal what I have set for my teachers, that whenever you are teaching, always there should be the gleam in the eyes of the children. If that gleam is there, automatically assessment will be done, and it will be again 360-degree. A few more were like class leader board. That was again something very fantastic, where every child was given some points on the basis of the activities what they were doing through bookcreator.com. So through class leader board, they were getting the points, and which was accessible and visible to everyone from every device. They were able to see the points, and that was a very healthy competition. Oh, someone has scored 10 points, so I have to move further. One more was PictoChart. PictoChart is again very good option, where instead of having a static poster, teachers were using it for their effective classroom teachings, where they were able to insert digitally again the videos and pictures and animations. So that was basically a digital poster rather than a static poster, PictoChart. If I talk about, that was one more, Padlet. Padlet was, again, I'm talking, Mrs. Kapoor, all these applications which were free of cost. And yes, it was like, it's a pool, it's an ocean where you have to dig out something and then you have to share, collaborate with others. So Padlet, again, it's like a shared drive where teacher has given one question and then students are giving their answers, and everyone is able to see the answers of each other, more for the senior and senior secondary students. One more application which was of exactly like this, that was Answer Garden. too good for subjects like legal studies, history, political science, business studies, which are more theoretical subjects. And there are some questions which are open-ended. And when in a classroom, in a 40 minutes classroom, if teacher has given one question, again, I'm not talking about MCQ. For MCQs, there are n number of applications like Kahoot, quizzes, edtech software, Peer Deck. There were many, Google Form, Microsoft Form, all these many applications are there. But for senior students, where you have to give them some open-ended questions. So for that also, answer garden, that everyone is writing their point of view, and towards the end, teacher is getting the screen where all these answers are like a sticky note, and beautifully it was coming up and healthy discussion was going on. So again, I will stick to my point, Mrs. Kapoor, that these teaching methodologies in a way, vis-a-vis, were sufficient to do the assessment there and then in the classrooms, rather than to create some confusion from online to offline and from offline to online. So yeah, and again, GeoGebra, Active Inspire, all these applications which were free of cost and we used in the classroom and made the class very effective.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manisha ma'am. And I think Manisha ma'am has, to the viewers, to the who are watching this webinar, I think to all the teachers, she's giving an inexhaustive list of so many tools and apps which are going to help you out, assist you. But the first thing that she said was it's important for teachers to get used to it, to explore these apps and take them to the class. So I think thank you so much for providing our viewers with such insights from I can repeat, bookcreator.com, Class Leaderboard, PictoChart, Padlet, Kahoot, for senior students, Answer Garden. So these are some of the uh, applications or two apps or tools which you can, as educators, use them for a better technology based assessment. Also, while researching, I went through one of them which said one way that technology is being used to help teachers to consider the emotional impact of the student learning activities assessment is the subtle stone. I have not used it, but that's a recommendation. You please use it and try and your hands on and see a tool, a handheld tool designed to let students privately communicate their emotional state directly to the teacher. This is known as Subtle Stone. Highly recommended that please try it, because considering the times of crisis, as teacher, you do need to know the mental health well-being of your student. Thank you so much, Manisha ma'am. Moving on to Dr. Swaminathan, and actually the question is so pertinent when we talk about an online or a technology-based assessment. This is regarding proctoring. Test proctoring is testing overseen by an authorized neutral proctor who ensures the identity of the test taker and the integrity of the test taking environment. In short, a proctor is a proxy for the instructor who oversees a test. Now, CISCE confirmed a nationwide training program for proctors and super proctors and IIT support executives and all that. How, sir, does the concept of online proctoring work? And I always bring AI when it comes to addressing a question to Amrita, because I know Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham is doing some amazing work when it comes to usage of artificial intelligence. So can AI be used to ensure that students don't use unfair means during the examination? Over to you, sir.
Okay. So, uh, uh, so when you start with, say, online proctoring, one thing we need to understand is we rely on the technology underneath technology, right? So basically, the technology has to be good, and therefore, no, we can actually do the online proctoring. For example, the way if we have tried out, and then no, in although I wouldn't say that no, it's a super success or no, but we what the way we have tried out is like there is a specific kind of a browser through which you actually log in. So therefore, it will not allow you to open any other browser or any other tab in the same browser. So what happens is you have a restriction of not being able to search for something while the evaluation is going on, because you can Google out and then you can just try to get, and then but that is not possible. Okay. Um, the secondly, the thing is you enter something called as a room. Okay, so you say fixed people like 20 students in this particular room, and there will be one teacher who will be kind of proctoring or monitoring your this thing. So you have to have your camera in front of you, and that should be on, and people will be able to. I mean, we can see at the same time we can watch all 20 students. But in practice, what we have seen is again this could be differ from place to place, and then I mean the country to country, depending upon the technology access to the common people. That knows even we get logged out quite very often, and the students get logged out, and then they come back, and there is a lot of shuttling going on like this, because it takes some time for a while for them to get in, log in their credentials, and then get into the room. And then there is a break in their continuity, like when they are trying to write the exam or do the exam, there is a break in the continuity. So these are the practical issues that we have faced. So this is the point where I was saying, where if the student says that network is really not good, we don't have any way to ascertain that, right? So although we have our people who can say that uh, the speed test they conduct and all that, but even then it becomes pretty dicey, because even I have noticed when I was monitoring a class, within 1 hour, like my whole data got lost. So it took some time for me to realize that my data is gone. That's why I'm not able to. I'm out of the meeting. Then I need to get back to the meeting. So these kind of issues are pretty much there. So practically, I would say that this is this kind of a online proctoring is not a complete success. Perhaps in some institutions where the students are also having like countries like probably Qatar or some countries like that, where you probably the network connectivity is good and things are pretty much well set. No, you could do like that. Okay, otherwise no, it may be a it may be a difficult way to assess the students by proctoring. So even though we say proctoring, I mean no, it has all these issues with it. Okay, and it's
Yeah,
only approximate. Yeah.
right, right. I think you really raised a very, very pertinent point here, because we are the national education policy's premise, it is technology integration and transition to hybrid classrooms, which definitely requires, it's the entire teaching learning process. So it is not just about teaching, it's also about assessments. And you rightly said that technology has to be good. So it raises it automatically raises this, that unless technology is good, unless the basics of networks, one is the availability of technology, because here we are sitting and talking about proctoring, we are talking about app based assessments, but I think 60% of the country doesn't even have that kind of access to, or are the teachers empowered. Even the technology would not just mean that having a smartphone and being able to attend the lecture. Let's be very honest, because most of the time we are going very gaga about that. Look, we've fulfilled our dream of technology integration, and we are on that path. But it's not just this; it requires a whole lot. Otherwise, the teaching process will lose meaning. Here, when Ms. Manisha Khanna was talking, Mr. Anup Uppal was talking, you're talking about those very higher ideals. So, yes, technology has to be good. That is one thing. And network connectivity is again. So, I would quickly ask Ms. Madhu Uppal, because how is the situation there? Do you have these power cuts or network issues?
Yeah, as far as technologically, I think we are quite sound here. No such issues. But still, Proctor based, as such, we have not started this assessment structure. But as far as I feel that when testing is done right, it benefit both educator as well as students. So one of the challenge which is frequently faced whenever there's online testing, though we are using other means, it's all about the legitimacy and the authenticity of the assessment. And that how many students did attempt the test fairly or resorted to unfair means. So I believe along with technology, I think educators needs to be, they should be more familiar with this cutting edge solution, online proctoring.
Yeah.
Like they need to be, they can come up with, improving the assessment structure, adding more high order thinking skill questions so that the child can't browse easily, such
Yes,
questions just at a click of a mouse or
button.
just easily available. And there are certain a concept wherein the child is not given that time duration so that they can skip or they can move or they can leave the question. So the assessment structure along with technology is very, very important here. And another, sir has mentioned, the role of AI. Whenever this artificial intelligence is used, there are more issues which come up with along with the privacy and the safety and security of the data, where it's going. Whenever this human intervention, it's fine. But when a humanoid, we can say, or AI is observing you, then there's always a fear. Sometimes the breakdown of the child is also gets recorded. So which is the child is more concerned about, rather focusing on the assessment that point of time. So I believe along with technology, we should have our own system also in place where educators can, make it more authentic and which technology can't challenge. Then it should be as an aid, not completely replace, with our teaching fraternity, I would say.
Very well said. Thank you so much. I just wanted to have a quick comparison where moving on to Ms. Manisha Khanna. So, ma'am, we saw that this year the most talked about JEE was conducted online in sync with national education policy in various regional languages along with English and Hindi. The National Testing Agency NTA had set up 850, I have figures in front of me, 852 examination centers across the country. During the examinations held in September, 660 examination centers had been set up. 6,61,761 candidates are appearing for this coveted computer-based entrance examination. That is like a humongous task. How do you think this could be replicated, or do you think this could be replicated in the schools for the regular assessment? Because it did prove to be successful. Over to you, Ms. Manisha Khanna.
Yes, Mrs. Kapoor, this was a big success, I'll say, because it was a big question to NTA, National Testing Agency, and yes, JEE Mains, the agency which are conducting these exams, that how they will be able to manage and conduct this exam where there was a peak of COVID and pandemic. But yes, they managed very well. If we have infrastructure in the country for all those areas where we can have these systems, these gadgets, where we can allow the children to go and sit and have the exam, this is going to be the best option. But again, one point, what I feel that for JEE exams is one competitive exam, or for forget about JEE or for any medical entrance exam. That is one exam where they have to further go for their higher education. But if at the school level, we do conduct such examinations, such MCQ based examinations, is it the correct way to have the assessment? That is one question where we have to ponder. What I feel right now, when we have pre-board 1 and pre-board 2 exams on the basis of MCQ as per the guidelines of CBSE, there are students who have done one particular question completely correct, but just last minute he has by mistake, instead of -1, had thought of that answer is +1, and he had chosen that +1 option. If option A, B, C, D, one is -1 and one is +1, so the child is getting 0 out of that 1 mark or 2 mark question. But if it would have been a paper pen testing, definitely there is a step marking, and teacher will evaluate the child on the basis of the steps what the child has done, and just the last minute wrong answer, we can't give 0 to that child, because the concept ultimately, again, my thought process is, we are there in this education to give the knowledge, to impart the knowledge, not just only for the assessments. And if for on these basis, if JE basis exams will be conducted all over country across all the classes, then it means, again, there may be chances where students, like, those who are doing Jai Shri Ram or Jahan Ram Aya, and that is the correct answer for them, or Jai Mata Di, or they have their own ways, a pattern they follow, zigzag or whatever. There are instances and cases I have seen in my lifespan of 20 years in this education system, where average student who was not conceptually very good and have scored very high rank in JE or in the medical exam. On the contrary, a child who was very good, exceptionally brilliant, conceptually very strong, but was not able to score on that. So for JEE entrance exam, because from last many years we have seen these kind of systems and they couldn't manage offline, so that was the best solution for that particular set of students. But for the whole lot of the school, for rest of the classes, primary, be it middle, be it senior secondary, or any other class, I still feel a balance of IT-based technology, MCQ-based, and some questions based on higher order thinking skills, where they have to give long answers, they have to write something with their hand, with the pen, definitely will be a better option.
What were the kind of instructions, which I was hearing you out and suddenly this question cropped up? What were the kind of instructions you gave to your teachers during when they were doing online assessments? And what are the various, like you've been talking? So how were you addressing these issues in your own school?
See,
Maybe
we
an
are following
example.
CBSE guidelines exactly, as CBSE has told very categorically that out of the 4 options A, B, C, D, everyone has to understand that there are 3 sections or 4 sections. Let us say if I talk about mathematics of grade 10, there will be 3 sections. Section A, it's comprising of 25 questions, but student has to attempt 20 questions, for example. So we are giving instructions to the students, don't attempt all, because in that case, last 5 questions will not be attempted, will not be checked. I'm sorry, not attempt, last 5 questions will not be evaluated. So utilize the reading time very categorically, very properly, and please attempt only those questions which, as many questions what have been asked you to attempt. Because otherwise, of course, there is no negative marking, but definitely the last 5 questions, last extra questions for that particular section will not be evaluated. And at the same time, right now, when we are giving them practice, we are giving them one rough sheet where they are doing the rough work, because that is important. Ultimately, we have to prepare them for their upcoming board exams, which will be in the month of November. The date sheet has come, as you told in the beginning only. So we have to see where they are not doing. As Mrs. Uppal said, that they have the IT-based infrastructure. She used the term digital ecosystem. So they have that ecosystem where everything has been done through technology. But since we are assessing, and we want to improve our students for their next upcoming exams. So we are asking them to solve the rough work on the piece of paper, where teachers are checking and giving them inputs and guidelines. That's how we got to know that students are doing the correct answer, complete correct solution. But again, while filling that, circle, B, the child has filled the circle, C, but the child concept was completely correct. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think it's always a pleasure hearing you, and your insights and your methodologies have always, I know for sure, you're very good at. Moving on to Dr. Swaminathan. Sir, I would like to pick where Manisha Khanna ma'am spoke about. And I was thinking suddenly that she said that the students were given a pen and paper and they could do their rough works there and then they could fill in so that they wouldn't miss. So are we, and I'm sure that's a solution which I would recommend to all everyone to follow, but then are we not are we seriously going on to the technology, or is it just when it comes to putting your correct answer and pressing the button? One, I would like you to reflect on this. And second, definitely, I would like because many colleges and universities have uh, given up quite a bit on their pen and paper, reliance on pen and paper, and they are trying to, secure an online examination system, which is the need of the hour. And what is your recommendation to the boards, your suggestions to assess the students virtually? Because you at AVV, this has been happening, I know for sure. But first, I address my first question about, a blend of both. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually, I can very well connect to the point which Manisha ma'am mentioned, because my daughter is in 10th, okay, and she has been instructed, she has been instructed, not to, no, attempt every question, and not so she has to cover the whole section. So I was remembering that, okay. But as she said, no, it is correct, because the thing is, when you are trying to mark and then say this is your correct answer, and uh, then see, your steps don't have they don't get considered at all, okay, and which is a real disadvantage for the students who are really putting their effort, right? So for example, I know some students, because my daughter says this, okay, she knows, no, there are some students in her class who has very good memory kind of a thing. So if they find some similar problem coming in and they have solved it, no, they will exactly know the answer. They will just go ahead and then pick the right answer. They may not even work out, okay, and most probably they will be right even, okay. So and whereas somebody who is applying the steps and then they are losing out. So in the long run, what I feel is this is the skill that is more important, like thinking on the feet, as I say, that is more important, right? So situationally thinking about it, not like planning to them and then uh, a lot of because we have the coaching centers. I mean, they are always into teaching you and how to solve a particular problem, like hundreds of problems they give you on the same pattern. I mean, this goes on like that, right? So uh, that is no, that actually can be a problematic thing, right? So in a long run, especially in this age, your memory and your understanding and just reproducing, they take a backseat rather than you providing some kind of a new value, and then by your thought process, and then by application that takes a larger value, okay. So probably and I think all these things are done to make the assessment easier and then make it more objective. I think that's the basically the idea here, right? So if somebody asks you, how did you give me so many marks, then I should be able to defend that, right? So that's the reason all these things are being made, so that it's objective. Anybody could, second person or a third person could verify, the way I have evaluated. So that I would say. And the next thing is the um, okay. I think I forgot your next question. No, would you mind, repeating that?
No, no, for sure, for sure. Because that's the next question is that most of the universities and colleges have now started shifting on to an online assessment. And AVV is doing wonderfully in online assessment,
Yeah,
virtually
right.
assessing
Okay,
their students.
I got it.
What are your suggestions? Yeah.
Yeah, see, basically what we do is, although we conduct a exam, we stopped proctoring. Okay, so we tried proctoring, but no, after some time we stopped proctoring because it was more of effort. So what we do is we conduct the exam, we keep the time very short. Okay, we keep the time very short so that if people who try to kind of engage, during the assessment, and then then the thing is they will lose out on time. They will not be able to complete the assessment. So one thing that we do is we shorten the assessment so that it's okay. I mean, if everybody they are not able to complete all questions, but keep them tight. Okay. So even though we are interested in 20 questions, we'll keep 30 questions. So let them get engaged. Even the people who complete 20 questions, let them keep getting engaged. I know they don't end up in helping others or whatever. So that's something we have done. The other thing that we do is conducting the viva after the exam. So if you do an exams for a week, the next week still it continues, and then we do a viva, call individually one-on-one viva, and then try to find out their actually the real knowledge and all that. So that is one of the skills that we are trying to gather, and that's how we are trying to give an assessment. We give 50% for the actual exam and 50% for the the viva. So there is some objective side and there is a subjective side, but eventually at least we'll be in a position to prove to the student, see, you're going to get less marks because you're not able to get this. But of course, I don't know how much it will work for schools, but this is for colleges we can do. But I don't know how much it will, and it's a lot of work for us. I mean, we hate it actually, we hate it, but we don't have any other way. But that's fine.
Thank you so much, sir. But I think this suggestion of Viva being conducted after the exams, normally schools have a pattern that practicals finish off before. Of course, as you said right in the beginning, that there is a revolution that's happening in evaluation, assessment and evaluation. So we need to somewhere shed our old patterns and come out of our conditioned thinking zones. Yes, Viva, of course, could be. You also mentioned that a 50-50% weightage. That again is something schools and board can look at, that a 50-50% weightage, both to that personal Viva interaction, practical, and 50% to the. But somewhere when you said that, which probably is right, and you said increasing the number of questions, that is something where I was just sitting and thinking about what will happen to the slow learners. I mean, there'll generally be a lot of students who take time to comprehend. So
Right.
probably that would, but yes, that is of course a good method. And with this revolutionary, revolutionary journey, I'm sure we'll be able to come up with some, or the other more foolproof system. We are running short of time, but very quickly, I would just want to once again move to Ms. Madhu Uppal. And as I earlier said, that as everyone learns little differently, teachers, try to meet the demands, assessment demands of various kinds of pupils. And initially, they would make differential differential papers, and then get them photocopied. Technology definitely is doing wonders. Do you think educators need to spend, and which you've actually said it, but maybe if you could brief it once again, need more time with students and device assessment? More time should be spent on devising the right kind of questions. Very quickly.
Yes, definitely. I would like to add point, because both Ms. Manisha Khanna and Sir has added, because we had also experienced the same, because when the grade 10 children were doing this MCQ, so many of them, they have done all 20 questions. Though we have already have our OMR system in place, we are all scanning the sheets. We have already bought it so that we can see where the children can lag, where they can lose marks, so that we can guide them accordingly. So rather, here I would like to add, when the children were, sensitized about read the instructions properly regarding this, the first attempted 20 question will be evaluated. So in case out of 24, they have done all 24. But even if in OMR software, we were not able to customize in such a manner, the best 20, should be taken for each child. There again, we got the OMR sheet cross-verified by all the subject teachers, so that child should not lose out. So this is what I'm saying. With technology, still we, had this human
Very true.
intervention, our teachers, input. So the child should not feel demotivated at this point of time because they're writing this for the first time. So even if we have OMR, software, we have section wise, we have already customized, things are in place, but children were still need guidance, and they need to be trained how to, this practice such kind of assessments. On the other hand, another example I would like to, give here, as you're saying that we need to have more, teachers need to be trained more effectively while, devising the assessments. My son was appearing for his college first year exam. So he was having this economics test only being my subject. So I was just around to see, how he's doing it. This is what the each and every question which I could see the practical implication, as well as, how the child has learned the concept. So it was not easy for him for each and every question to just, tick an option out of that 4 options given. So there has to be, this pen and paper requirement wherein he is able to draw the diagram to check whether the statement in the question given is, correct, or it is get verified. On the other hand, he was given 2 attempts. First, you do all the question. If you satisfy with your score, it's fine. Otherwise, you do the second attempt. So such kind of flexibility, I think, initial levels when we are training up children, an entire ecosystem is getting through this experiment. We need to have certain flexibility in place, wherein the child should not feel, okay, I missed that, now I'll reattempt, then definitely I can score better. Maybe certain things he missed out. So definitely
Thank you
it has to be very, very personalized for each and every educator, as well as for children also. So we need to have flexibility in the system.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Madhupal. Last week, I was in a certain city for a training program. There was some public examination scheduled over the weekend, and authorities had turned off the internet of the entire city. And that's a personal experience. They put jammers or whatever. No communications could happen online. Of course, the Wi-Fi's within the buildings were running, but we were unable to book cabs or order food or review information. It was like a virtual social standstill at that point of time. Do you think there could be a system devised for conducting secure examinations without disrupting the life of the common man? And I would like to address this first to Dr. Swaminathan, because he comes from a technical background, so he would be able to throw light much better on the why of this. The how of this, the whys could be addressed. Yes, Dr. Swaminathan.
Ma'am, that last line, can you repeat? Actually, no, I just sort of missed it actually.
Yeah. So what was happened was it was a complete virtual and social standstill.
Right.
We were unable to book cabs. Nothing could happen. Now, do you think there could be a better system devised for, because these examinations will keep happening. Every time you can't put the public in so much of inconvenience and discomfort. So conducting secure examinations without disrupting the common man's life.
Yeah, so I would feel that I mean it's getting too far to do that, okay, because it's kind of a disruption. But what I would suggest is basically what Manisha ma'am had said sometime in her, I think in her second question she mentioned increasing the student engagement. Okay, see that is going to be helpful for them, because if they are going to get involved and doing even some small stuff, so even that would benefit them more eventually than literally making them undergo this kind of test and shutting down everything, and everybody going through the inconvenience. I think we our evaluation strategy should move more towards engaging the students, engaging the teachers. And, many of us, we were also excited about finding new ways of giving quizzes and engaging the students. And then students, when they come up with they get engaged, and then they come up with some kind of a new idea, like what she had mentioned, a lot of ideas. When they also feel some kind of they have done, and they get more liking to the subject. Otherwise, sitting in front of the camera, or always in a very tight environment, it's not going to encourage them or motivate them for studies. Okay, so
Right.
I would say that we need not go to that much extent, but rather
But that definitely happened. Yes, that definitely happened. And it was a personal experience. And there was so much of inconvenience.
right.
That was a complete standstill. Yeah. Yeah. So that is, but then some ways, are there some jammers put? I think some ways need to be devised, more foolproof.
Right.
Yes, student engagement is, yes, of course, that is definitely required, but some more technical, technology based,
Yeah.
more foolproof systems. We are coming to the end of the session and moving on to the last, our audience round. Questions from the audience. And every time we have some very insightful questions from the audience. And my first question is addressed to Ms. Manisha Khanna. And the uh, person who's asked this question is Ms. Amita Rao from Sri Ayappa Education Center, Bangalore. And her question is, students have lost writing practice. How can we expect them to draw or write in subjective papers? So because that's something by coincidence, because I just while reading, I realized that Miss Manisha Khanna was talking about writing right in the beginning, and it's coincidental. Yes, ma'am, if you could.
Thanks for this question, Mrs. Iyer. It is from Mrs. Iyer because I can't see
Yes.
the questions from
Amita
Facebook.
Rao. Miss
Amita
Amita
Rao.
Rao.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mrs. Amita Rao, for this wonderful question. Yes, what you are saying initially, we were also struggling and juggling because the moment all of a sudden we all were forced to move to IT, to this technology. So we also started our assessments with MCQs only in a form of Google Forms or Microsoft Forms. But very soon we explored that there is an option of uploading, of course, which was not there in the initial phases in the month of March 2020 when we moved to this technology, just after that. So, but after few months, Microsoft and Google, they both incorporated this option where we can ask the questions, we can ask the students that this is the question, of course, which can be shared through Zoom or any other classroom platform which you are using, and students could write the answer. Of course, what I did in my school, that the camera, the device, the camera of the device should be like what I will show right now, that the notebook should be visible and the child face also. That is one thing. So, which was a sure testing and proofing and validating that the child is not copying from somewhere, and the child has to make the PDF of that answer. And you can ask any question now to draw the chart, to draw the pie graph or bar graph or any diagram, or to write any long answer. Simply they had to make the PDF of that and they have to upload. Again, there was some dimensions, some size restrictions, that the file should not beyond certain sizes. But yes, definitely within the school system, we were able to manage that. So that was one option of uploading the PDF through Google Form and Microsoft Forms, and of course, free of cost, as I explored a lot, all the free tools. And the second, as I said, Answer Garden. There also we can give option to the students to draw the diagram, figure, anything, any writing practice where they will write and share it with others.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this short and crisp answer. I'm sure the Mr. Meeta Rao would have be satisfied with your options that you've suggested. Dr. Swaminathan, this question is to you. How to implement technology? I think that's a very pain area in rural background schools. And this question is from Ms. Sridevi Kumbalingam, Ideal CBSE School, Maila Duthi, Mailadu Surai. And I'm sure there's a lot of pain in, yeah.
So I think this is not an easy question to answer, no, right? Because I think it's something the government has to do to make sure that the technology is at least at a minimum level, it has been raised so that like it becomes something like a basic thing, right? So it's not pretty easy because if private people would do it in a city, because there is there is an immediate return on investment and all that. Who would invest in actually the remote areas? That's actually the question.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
unless really people see a lot of money in that, so probably the government has to pitch in here, and then they have to bring the level of infrastructure, probably make it cheap, or even free for them to access these infrastructure and all that. So
So
that is
accessibility and availability, that has to be
availability.
worked upon. Yeah. There's another question as well, which is again for you, which again, I think if you could throw some light very briefly, how can we make sure that assessments are clear and without any deceit or artifice? This is by Ms. Tina Bakshi, Maxford, Dwarka.
Yeah, see, right now, if you take purely online, it is actually, we have not yet reached that stage, right? So, as as the school, both Madhu ma'am and Manisha ma'am had said, like you need some kind of a proctoring. You need to have a camera, and then they need to see what they are doing, all that stuff. We can we need that kind of a really the technology to deal with this. Okay, I don't think we are at that particular stage per se. Actually, it has to evolve. It has to evolve. Right now, no, I don't think it's a tall order thing, I would say.
Yes, I think you're right that we have to go with the blended kind of a model,
Right.
and we need to follow, take recourse, as Manisha ma'am was suggesting, that even if the student was pitching in, turning in the answer online, so a sheet is provided to this child to, practice. So there has to be a smooth transition, and it will take time, and I think it should take time. Things
Right.
cannot be done in a rush. Last question is one question to, though there is a whole list of questions in front of me, but because of the paucity of time, I could just address one question per head. To Ms. Madhu, could you suggest some formative assessment strategies? And this question is by Dr. Muhammad Riaz Mahmood, International Islamic University, Chittagong.
Definitely, see, the entire structure of, I think, assessment formative is very, very important, because it is the process of learning which is assessed through formative assessments, wherein the children, what they are learning in the classroom, where they are, what they are learning when they have peer learning, when it takes place, as the another, the structure which has been launched by CBSE, the SAFL, the entire, it talks about, the learning in the formative stage. So what the children are learning when they think, parents share certain kind of activities which we can do in the classroom, where they can have a peer reflection, or they can just learn something which is a process of the classroom environment, wherein they can be suggested, like I suggested the concept recap, which is we take it as a formative assessment. After every concept, that concept which is tested, it's not an assessment, it's just a tool to diagnose whether the child, what the child is learning in the classroom, whether we are able to attain that learning outcome or not. And there are so many activities which can be done. The another periodic assessment that we take, that is also part of formative assessment, but it should not be taken in the form of the formal assessment. It can be formative so that to test the concept building of the child. So such kind of assessment which can be taken once the learning takes place in the classroom, so they learn better by doing. So experiential learning, I would suggest here, which is very, very important. When they experience, the theater, which is the art integration, very, very important. CBSE always, advocate learning by doing. The art integration in the role play, what they, they can do in the classroom, the actual scenario, the field visits. So what all is a part of formative assessment, which the experiences which we can give to the child during the entire transaction process. So I think this way we can just help the children to learn better and in a more experiential manner.
Thank you so much, Ms. Uppal. And now, towards the end, one suggestion or one liner that you would like to suggest to students, universities, teachers. You can say anything that you like. So we begin with Ms. Manisha Khanna, then Dr. Swaminathan, and then Ms. Madhu. Yes, Ms. Manisha Khanna.
First of all, would like to check, am I audible? Because from my side, all the pictures are just still. Again, technology
You are audible.
has.
You are audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I would like to sum up this session by requesting all the educators and the parents that when the child is giving any kind of assessment, please be fair. One, as a parent, please don't give any support. As Sir rightly said, that when online proctoring is not successful, at least we can request parents, please don't give light support to the students. And similarly,
Right.
when last year, Mrs. Kapoor, CBSE has given the rights to all the educators to give the marks. I think this is a question that every educator need to introspect within themselves, how true they were when they were giving the marks, when they were assessing the child, because every school, every teacher wanted my score, my result should be the best, irrespective of the child is deserving or not deserving. And that's how it is obviously seen from the Delhi University cutoff, be it St. Xavier, St. Stephens, or LSR or SRCC. The cutoff is 99.5 and it is shut. In hardly some of the good colleges of DU, it has gone to 99. So is
Thank
it
you
what we
so
are
much, ma'am. Yeah. So parents, and you would have heard it that since proctor system is not as effective, a word of advice from Ms. Manisha Khanna that at least ensure that the examinations online are conducted with great seriousness, and you are on the same side of the table as the school and not as the opposing to the managements, school heads, and teachers and principals. Yes, Dr. Swaminathan, very briefly, yes, sir.
Yeah, so I have quite a different point. What I would say is, whether it's in a school or the college or whatever. So I think university, we need to cut down on the syllabus. I think we are so much on volume, and I don't know whether I mean, all these things are really necessary. Okay, so I think we need to cut down on the volume, whether it's the syllabus or whatever, and then go for more practical, more engaging thing, than being very covering a lot of volume. I see a lot of volume in everything that we do, especially in the schools and colleges. A lot of volume is there actually.
Yes.
So,
So thank you so much. So what Dr. Swaminathan says is something very, very practical advice. And what I gauge from is that cut down on the volume that is delivering of the content. Probably you could divide it as a part of internships or experiential or projects, and lesser content when it comes to doing the assessments online. Yes, Ms. Madhutal, your one last statement, piece of advice to any or all the stakeholders. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to sum up that the human element of education, which cannot be overlooked, and technology can only be used as a ancillary tool to amplify the learning experience. And it is very, very important that in addition to various controlling methods that we use, it's very, very important that we need to create awareness among students on academic integrity and to develop the ethics, of students through learning process and by incorporating maybe curricular or co-curricular plans. So it is also very important to assess the way technology is used, processed and stored. The very important is built in to protect the privacy of the users and to protect against proctoring or the data theft, but all is there. So very carefully it is to be used. Technology, though it's a tool, but it should be integrated to benefit the entire teaching and learning environment. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much. Great insights from all our panelists today who are practicing educators. And they said that it is important that the human element should not take a back seat. It should, at whatever process, at whatever level we are. And secondly, the volume should be monitored. And thirdly, it was that the parent involvement in assessments we should handhold with the various stakeholders when we are doing assessments. Thank you so much. With the current prevalence of remote learning and growing interest in e-assessment, most teachers have come to understand the benefits of technology for assessments. However, what is not yet widely celebrated is that technology enabled assessment can be used for more than just tracking results and discipline knowledge. By combining data with learning analytics, technology also offers great promise in helping pupils learn through assessments. We will be soon back with the next episode of Decoding National Education Policy 2020 to deliberate on yet another theme. Keep watching for updates on our social media handles and do send us your ideas, thoughts, questions at info@edudevs.com. I again repeat, the program was powered by Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham University and produced by EduDev's School of Inspired Teaching and Learning. Signing off for today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all our esteemed panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.